All right, so the major story today is this ceasefire that just kicked off between the US and Iran. Now, you'd think that means peace, right? Well, not exactly. Instead, it's acting more like a geopolitical fault line, literally creating new conflicts and sending these massive shockwaves all across the globe. So let's get into it and break down what this really, really fragile truce actually means.
So here are the basics. We've got a 2-week truce with Pakistan playing mediator, and it is officially underway. And on the surface, yeah, this looks like everyone taking a deep breath, a step back from the brink. It should be a moment of de-escalation. But, and this is a huge but, when you look at the fine print, well, that tells a completely different story.
And right off the bat, we see the first major crack in this so-called peace. President Trump came out and made it crystal clear. American forces are not going anywhere. This is not a withdrawal, folks. It's a really tense pause. And that one quote tells you everything you need to know about the trust level between these two sides. It's pretty much zero. So that brings us to the first big, and I mean big, consequence. You know, a peace deal is really only as good as the paper it's written on, especially what it covers. And in this case, it's what the deal excludes that is immediately and tragically leading to more violence, not less. And here it is, the critical loophole. The agreement has this massive carve-out, a giant blind spot. It just flat out does not apply to Lebanon. What does that do? Well, it essentially gives a green light for all the proxy conflicts to just keep raging there. And that is exactly what happened almost instantly. And the result of that one exclusion? Absolutely devastating. In the immediate aftermath, Israeli airstrikes pounded Beirut in southern Lebanon. We're talking more than 250 people killed in a single day. It's a stark reminder, a ceasefire for some meant a sudden, deadly escalation for others. And make no mistake, these strikes were not random. The Israeli military confirmed they carried out a high-profile assassination right in the middle of Beirut. The target was a man named Ali Yusuf Harshi. And he wasn't just any commander. This guy was the personal secretary and nephew of Hezbollah's #2 leader, Naim Qassem. So yeah, this was a precision strike aimed right at the heart of Hezbollah's leadership. So this really shows you Iran's two-pronged strategy, right? On one hand, they're playing by the rules, observing the ceasefire with U.S. forces directly. But at the exact same time, they've launched brand new drone attacks against America's allies in the region. We saw Bahrain intercept 7 drones, while Kuwait reported some pretty significant damage to a National Guard base. It's a very clever and very dangerous game. Now, let's shift to the global economy for a second, because this was a huge deal. The Strait of Hormuz, that critical artery for global oil, has reopened. The first non-Iranian ship, a tanker flagged to Gabon, actually made it through. But, and I'm sure you saw this coming, this is not a simple return to business as usual, not by a long shot. And here's the catch. Iran's Revolutionary Guard put out a warning almost immediately, basically saying, hey, those main shipping channels, they might still be full of sea mines. So yeah, the strait is technically open, but it's an incredibly high-risk gamble for any ship captain trying to get through. The threat is still very, very real. With all of this tension and conflict, there was one small but pretty significant positive development. For the first time since this war started, some of Jerusalem's holiest sites, we're talking the Al-Aqsa Mosque and the Church of the Holy Sepulchre, have actually reopened to the public. It's just a rare and very welcome moment of calm. Okay, so with this fragile truce now in place, the world isn't just sitting back and watching. No way. Everyone is acting. This has kicked off a massive global diplomatic chess match, and pretty much every major power is now making its move. And you can see just how busy everyone is. The US is sending top officials to Pakistan to try and get direct talks going with Iran. You've got European powers like Germany and Spain reopening their embassies, trying to be a stabilizing force. NATO, for its part, is all about securing the Strait of Hormuz. And then there's this really fascinating twist. Ukraine is stepping up, sending its drone warfare experts to help Gulf nations defend against Iranian tech. Talk about shifting alliances, right? All right, so this whole conflict isn't just about military moves and frantic diplomacy. It's hitting the global economy and hitting it hard. The impact on things like energy and other critical resources, well, that's creating a whole new set of crises. Just look at this roller coaster. Oil prices have dropped from a crazy peak of $120 a barrel down to around $95. And sure, that's a bit of a relief, but let's be real, prices are still incredibly high. And a lot of people think this little dip might just be a false sense of security. And here's why. Because the real long-term economic danger here isn't the day-to-day price. It's the physical damage that's already been done. Analysts are sounding the alarm that attacks on Saudi Arabia's critical East-West pipeline have created a major long-term supply disruption. A ceasefire doesn't magically fix a broken pipeline, and that's going to have lasting effects for all of us.
And speaking of economic ripple effects, we're now seeing a pretty strategic move from China. Their Ministry of Commerce announced they're going to start approving exports of rare earth minerals again. You know, the stuff that's in all our electronics. But there's a condition, only for genuine civilian use. It might seem like a small step, but in this climate of global uncertainty, it's a really significant signal. And of course, while the Middle East is dominating all the headlines, the world keeps on turning. There are other major events unfolding right now. So let's just quickly pan out and take a look at the broader picture. In what's being called a rare humanitarian moment in the war, Russia and Ukraine actually conducted a body exchange. But just look at the numbers here. They really tell the story. Russia received the remains of 41 of its servicemen. Ukraine, on the other hand, received the bodies of 1,000 of its fallen soldiers. It's just a staggering, brutal asymmetry.
And elsewhere in the world, a couple of other big stories are making headlines. Over in Hungary, the country is on edge, heading into what's being called its most significant modern election this Sunday. And back in the U.S., a high-profile case wrapped up. Jasmine Sanga, who was dubbed the ketamine queen by the media, has been sentenced to 15 years in prison for her role in the 2023 overdose death of actor Matthew Perry. And all of this brings us right back to the central question, doesn't it? Is this ceasefire a genuine first step towards peace, or is it just a tactical pause, a moment for everyone involved to reload, reposition, and get ready for the next, possibly even bloodier phase of the conflict? The truth is, right now, nobody knows for sure, and the entire world is holding its breath to find out.